Thank you. We're now back for the Economy and Development and Strong Communities Joint Select Committee. So I will hand back over to Mark Hand.
Many thanks, Chair. So just to cover a couple more bits in the second part of the meeting. Firstly, if we could look briefly at recommendation 8, which talks about some issues with our current car park ticket machines, and one of the frequent complaints from customers. And then Jose from PayByPhone has kindly joined us, and he'll be speaking in a little bit about a mobile phone payment system, which is an option for us to consider. And then if we can come back later on to the suggested schedule of meetings to take the review forwards to conclude. In terms of recommendation 8, I'll bring Neil Rosser in a second, but just to provide some context, one of the frequent comments we have from customers when they have concerns about our machines is a card payment drops out partway through the transaction. So we've done some work with the company to understand what the issue is, and it's relatively simple in the sense it's the SIM card within the machine. So the machine acts, if you like a giant mobile phone, and is sending those card payment requests as it would when you're making a payment from your mobile phone. In some areas, that signal is obviously weaker. So the recommendation is to review ways of trying to address that, either by increasing signal strength with the company, or potentially we could swap to a different mobile provider where the signal's stronger. But Neil had a bit of an update on that one, which might be a relatively easy early win to update members on. So if I can pass over to Neil Rosser.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so I was in discussions with Metric, the company that's contracted to look after our machines. As of last week, they did some signal testing for us in certain areas. We've got a few options available to us, but the results of their testing will give us a better understanding of which way we should go. We've got the option to have differing SIM cards in different areas, dependent, as you would be a mobile phone, which area has the best signal for the provider. There is another method that we've got, which is a signal booster, literally an aerial that's attached to the machines that should hopefully boost the signal. And one of the new systems that they have in development at the moment is a storage machine, because sometimes the signal and the process can be delayed because of one person going to the machine after another, kind of, for want of a better word, overloads it. They got a new storage system coming in, which will save the information until a given point in the day, possibly after the car park's actually out of its payment period, that will then upload and send all the payment details through all at the same time, thereby avoiding any connection issues. And that's where we are with it at the moment, and currently waiting for the results to come through now from the testing.
That's great. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Neil. Sorry, Chair, I keep pausing, waiting for the little red live square to appear, but there isn't one now, is there? Do members have any question on that, or should we move on to recommendation 9, which is around the pay by phone proposal, which Jose can pick up? Any questions on the SIM card issue?
No one's indicating they have any questions, so I think you can proceed.
Okay, thanks. So thanks then, Chair, thanks members. I'll just introduce Jose to you, who's from a company called PayByPhone, and he recently presented to myself and colleagues about a system that I've personally used elsewhere, so you can pay for the parking in a mobile phone, which would be an addition as an option for customers. So you still be able to pay by card, coin, contactless, but if customers chose, they could pay by phone as well. So Jose, if you're happy, I'll pass over to you to just address members, talk through the proposal, and then allow for questions at the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Can you guys all hear me?
We can.
Fantastic. Let me try to cast, because this is the bit where I struggle. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic.
Success.
Okay, cool. So good afternoon, guys. I'm Jose. I work for PayByPhone. I previously spoke to members of your team with regards to our cashless solution. So as previously stated, our solution isn't one that looks to remove the existing methods of payment. It looks to enhance the current methods of payment by offering customers an alternative method to pay. So if, for example, as you mentioned, you've got quite a few people on the line queuing up to pay at the P&D, they can also use our solution, which under the current circumstances with COVID-19, you would look to minimize the number of people queuing up and being in one space, all together. So with our solution, they could just arrive at that location and pay for their parking from their car, which is, what would be preferred under the current conditions, avoiding them having to interact with, the machines or carry cash or anything like that. So as mentioned, we're not in the business of removing machines or anything like that, but we just want to enhance the parking experience for motorists. So our purpose as a business is to simplify the journey so you can focus on what matters most. So as explained, customers can drive up to a car park, and if they go into a specific site or go into the town center, they can just drive up to the car park. On their phone, they'll be able to see their nearest locations or the location they currently are at using GPS signal, do their session from the phone, or they can go into the town, and if they want to extend their session, though maybe they pay the P&D and they want to pay for a longer session, there's no need for them to go back to the car, to the vehicle, and to go to the P&D and get another ticket. All they can do is just go on their phone, look at the location number, enter the VRN and the duration they want to extend their session for, and continue with the session. So it's about simplifying the journey and making it simple for customers to extend their sessions. So to give a bit of background on an overview of how we're developing over in Wales, since I joined PayByPhone, the sales team back in May of last year, our growth in Wales has been significant. In August of this year, we went live across the north of Wales. So the Isle of Anglesey, Gwynedd Council, Conway, and Denbighshire all went live between July and August of this year, going through two different methods of acquiring our solution. Some councils went with a direct award and others went through the ESPO framework. I'll talk to you guys about that shortly after. Additionally, recently we went live with the Vale of Glamorgan in South Wales. And just last week, I spoke to Pembrokeshire Council, and they're looking to go live with our solution through the ESPO framework by the end of this year. The councils there you see in orange are the ones that I'm currently in talks with for them to go live either by the end of this quarter or beginning of the next one. And the ones in red are the ones that currently have an existing provider called My Permit, and they'll be out to tender in 2021. So as you can see there, we've got quite a large amount of coverage across Wales, and our solution continues to grow and develop. The main reason for our success in Wales is that we're one of two providers in the market that is able to provide a solution both in English and in Welsh, which I know is a requirement for all Welsh authorities. If at any point you guys have any questions, please feel free to shout out. I'm happy to stop and go over your questions. To go and give you an overview of our platform and value-added services and how it all fits together into one solution. So as you can see there, our payment channels not only specify the PayByPhone app, but they also work through the website. So we've got a specific URL that customers can go into from their tablets. And interactive voice recognition, which is basically a phone number that customers can call in and pay for their session that way. Alternatively, they can call into that number and press 0, and they'll be directed into a call center. So they could actually speak to someone and either ask a question or process their session that way. Additionally, we have an SMS solution, and if you've got coverage, we work with a company called PayPoint that offers a cash solution, though the coverage in Monmouthshire with PayPoint is quite minimal, but that's also an alternative payment method. Additionally, we offer various different products on top of cashless parking. We can offer season tickets, which I know from our previous conversation is of interest to you guys, permits, visitor vouchers, and a fine pay solution. Additionally, we have integrations with ANPR providers, the DVLA, and etc. So it's not just an app solution that you guys will be able to obtain, but it's also additional products and methods of payment that can, enhance the parking experience. It's going back to that purpose statement about making it simple for customers to, to enjoy their stay. So within our payment channels, there are very different stages and processes. So you've got the registration, the payment, management, receipts, and the availability of that service in Welsh. So obviously with the iOS app and Android app, the whole process, you could do that through those handsets, but they're also available in Welsh. And additional other platforms such as the BlackBerry, the mobile web, the desktop, Alexa and Siri, all those are also available in Welsh. And as mentioned, we've got 24/7, 365 live agents and support for customers that require anything that is also available in Welsh, which is pretty neat if you're looking at it from the perspective that only 2 providers in the market currently provide this service. Further on from that, we have a solution called dynamic labels, which is sort of the first thing that customers see when they open the PayByPhone app. So this is a great way for the council to communicate with customers, and you're actually talking to your target market from that perspective because it's someone that's actually looking to park within a specific part of the county. So you can design the dynamic labels to be a specific landmark or event taking place within an area of the council. So that image could be changed 12 times across the year, as many times as you guys like, really. It's a great way to communicate. So there I've given you some examples of some dynamic labels, which, by the way, excuse me if it's not the right area, but I've looked on Google to see the best images that I can find. If they're not in Monmouthshire, you could provide us with some that I could use. But yes, those are some ideas of what we could do. What we usually like to do with a client when we go live with them is put a calendar together over a 12-month period and provide 12 different images to sort of tell a story across the 12 months. And if there's any events that take place within those 12 months, we can provide an image for that, as you can see there with the big the magical lakeside festival. Additionally, the registration process is very simple. You've got four different ways of registering, from either the standard registration process to signing in with Apple or Facebook. And additionally, for GDPR purposes, we have a continue without an account option, where you just enter your vehicle registration number, the duration of your stay, and the card details you would like to pay with, and then you can process a session. Once the session is over, then the information will be removed from the system. That way we're GDPR compliant. But if you can see there from the registration process, it's pretty standard. All you need is your phone number and an email address to create a password, and that's pretty much it. You enter your vehicle registration and car details. You can also take a picture of your car and name a car. So for example, me and my girlfriend share the 2 cars that we have. Sometimes I drive her car, sometimes she drives my car. We can take a picture of the car just in case maybe the number plate isn't enough to remind us. And that way you can say, okay, well, I've got the red car and you've got the blue car, etc. So it's about simplifying it for customers, but also that option allows for customers to not pay with the incorrect VRN, which might be an issue sometimes because customers are in a rush trying to pay for their parking and they might have more than one vehicle. This avoids them having to pay for the incorrect vehicle. The payment process is very simple. Once you select your vehicle, as there you can see that the vehicles all have different pictures because there's different cars. You select the location where you want to park, the duration of your stay, and then it'll take you to a confirmation screen which will confirm where you're staying, the vehicle you're parking with, when your session will expire, and how much it will cost. You select what you want to pay with. This could be your standard credit or debit card or Apple and Google Pay. Once you've confirmed that, it will show you a success screen which says payment completed, and then it will take you over to the main screen which has got the dynamic label at the background, and it'll tell you how much time you have remaining on your stay. If at any point you wish to extend your session, you can hit that extend button and it will allow you to extend your stay for either, more hours, more minutes, etc. So it's going back to what I was saying earlier. If someone's in the town center and they're staying for coffee and they want to stay an extra maybe 10, 15 more minutes, they can go back on their app and extend their session. We also work very closely with local businesses. Obviously, during the current circumstances, it's very difficult, but before COVID, we worked with local businesses to encourage customers to stay for longer. And we had campaigns called Extend Your Stay, which we had posters within all the local businesses in the area that had a QR code that customers could scan, and then that business would be entered into a raffle. And if, for example, 50 customers extended their parking within that business could win a chance to get an extra £500 or so like that. So it's a way for us to also work with local businesses by encourage customers to stay there for longer. This is something that our marketing team and your internal teams could work in later on the line. Moving on, as mentioned, we've got a payment process in Welsh. So as you can see there, the app is fully in Welsh from the registration all the way up to the completing of the session. So as going back to what I was saying earlier, we're one of two providers in the market that can provide a solution that's 100% in Welsh. The implementation is very simple. We start with a kickoff meeting in which our internal teams meet with your internal teams and discuss how we'd like to move forward with the project. We agree on the marketing and signage and social media and how we're going to work towards that. We'll have the location set up in our back office. So you provide us with, say, all the different car parks you have, their tariffs and so forth, and we'll import that information into our system. We'll allocate specific location numbers to each location and allow you guys to verify that all the information is correct. We'll set up the mid and banking and make sure that we complete a compliant solution integration, which basically means we provide all that information for you guys so you guys can do an internal testing and verify that it's all okay before us going live. And finally, we have a training session where we train basically the members of your staff that will interact with our system, from the CEOs to the customer support team to the finance team to anybody else that will interact within our system. And going back to what I was saying earlier, we have various different campaigns, from the launch campaign once we go live with the client, where we'll put out posters of how PayByPhone will work, also use a dynamic label, create a bespoke landing page, threefold leaflets, social media adverts, Google AdWords, etc. So from a marketing perspective, we'd like to put a lot behind that before we go live to make sure that customers are aware the service is coming soon, so that once the service is there, customers are more likely to either download the app or already have the app in their system. Additionally, all our marketing is, tailored towards the council that we work with. So we'll work with your internal comms team on what they would like for us to present. So there's some ideas that we've worked in with Welsh authorities, and there on the far right is Gwynedd from Gwynedd Council, and this is the stuff that they sort of designed with us on how we can work together. I'm not sure how much Welsh stuff you guys would like to put forward, but we work with the councils in Wales, this depending on the requirements for the Welsh wording. And as you can see there, we've got posters and leaflets of different ideas. And finally, our signage. So from a signage perspective, we provide dual language signage. There's different examples of it. Some councils would like to have one side of the PND in Welsh and one side in English. Or in some cases, as you can see there with the Isle of Anglesey, they would like to have it both sides in English and Welsh. It's up to you guys how you guys would like to tailor that and design that. We'll just follow your lead there and design that accordingly. Additionally, we can put up posters, or if you've got car parks with some real estate that we can put a sticker across, we can just put something that's sort of like this one that says "Welcome to Queen's House Car Park" or so forth, just to advertise that PayByPhone is available at the location. All signage is provided to all authorities we work with 100% free of charge, so there's no charge for any stickers that go on the machine or anything that we design that way. And as you guys were mentioning earlier, you had some signage issues. So prior to us going live with any local authority, we provide a signage test. We work with two companies. We work with Ofcom and Signal Checker. So for every location, there's an address. So we input that information into their systems and verify that they've got sufficient coverage to give you the peace of mind that we'll be able to process a transaction at those locations. So once we have that information, we could do that and then give that information back to you saying, so for car park A, we've got enough coverage. However, car park F, we haven't got enough 4G coverage, but a sufficient 3G coverage in that area, which will allow them to process the session and so forth, just to give you that peace of mind. And since working with quite a few Welsh local authorities, we've had very little issues, if any, with signal issues, just because with the PND, it's a static signal because the P. However, with the phone, because it's moving, you're able to catch a lot more signal that way. So it's just another layer for us to give you the peace of mind when we implement our solution. And finally, from a procurement purpose, I spoke to you guys about the ESPO framework, which will provide you a great offering from a commercial perspective. The transaction fees are 5p if the customer pays for the transaction, or 4p if the council chooses to pay for the transaction. The customer has the option to receive an SMS message, which either confirms or reminds them of their session. A confirmation SMS is one that says you've parked at X location, your parking starts here and it ends there. And a reminder is basically 5 minutes before your session is about to expire. We send an SMS saying your session is about to expire in 5 minutes, would you like to extend? the current ESPO offering is one that offers a 50% revenue share on the SMS. So if a customer gets an SMS reminder or confirmation, the council will receive 50% of that. So you'll be making 5 pence on every SMS. On average, 7 out of 10 customers opt in for either a reminder and or a confirmation. So roughly you'll be making a certain amount of money or revenue through the ESPO framework that you wouldn't be making otherwise. Additionally, what I was saying regarding the marketing is we put our money where our mouth is when it comes to our marketing budget. So we allocate a specific marketing budget for all of our clients so that we can work on campaigns with that specific client throughout the duration of the contract. That way we can work with local businesses. In the north of Wales, we sponsor a couple of football teams. From the top of my head, I can't recall. They're very local and small teams, but we work with them to advertise PayByPhone. So not only do you think of PayByPhone when it comes to parking, but you see PayByPhone more around the area and how we can work with the council. And finally, the duration of the contract is a 24-month trial contract. So we're not tying you in for a 10, 15-year contract or anything like that. It's a 24-month trial contract with the option to extend for a further 2 years. Please rest assured that we will not increase the transaction fee or anything like that throughout the duration of the contract. It stays the same. There really is no change there. It's just to give you guys a try for the system. If you like it, you'll be able to extend it under the same commercials. If you don't, then we understand and we'll just remove the stickers and move on. We've not had the case where a client has said that they're not happy with the service, because as going back to what I was saying earlier, it just enhances the parking experience for customers. So that's pretty much us in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Jose. So exciting stuff there. Mark, do you want to come back in before I hand over to members?
Yeah, briefly, if that's okay, Chair. So just to clarify, this is one company that offers the technology, so we'd have to go through a proper procurement route. But we've been working closely with Jose for a few weeks now, and he's really captured our attention in terms of what this might offer as an idea. So in terms of how it would work, it would be an additional option for customers. So if people still choose to pay by card or pay by coins, they can do. But one bit of feedback we've had in some cases has been some people have found entering their car registration on the little buttons a bit fiddly or complicated. Personally, I find it fairly intuitive, our system, but obviously not everyone is finding that same experience. So this does offer a different way for them to pay. I've used it in other authority areas when out and about before COVID. And you register your car and your payment cards if you choose to, and then it all happens automatically. You just enter which car park you're in and how long you're staying for. Or as Jose said, if individuals prefer not to have systems keeping that data of theirs, then they can just kind of register each time in a different way, and the system deletes it, doesn't hold their card details. So if we just talk about this as a concept, we're not committing ourselves to this company. We'd have to go through a proper procurement process. But if members have questions about how it might work as an option, or any concerns they might have, that would be helpful to know.
Members, I'm going to hand over to you now. I don't know if we're going to have a speak now. I can see someone's hand is popped up. Open participants a moment. It's awfully slow this morning. Who's got their hand up? That might be, it's Jamie. Councillor Treharne.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jose, for your presentation. It's very interesting, actually, and it seems as though it's fairly simple to use. I have one question for you, and is the system 5G ready or compatible, please? Thank you.
Jose, are you able to come back in?
He's on
Sorry,
mute, I think.
I was on mute. Yes, it's 5G compatible, provided the customer's handheld has 5G, then the system will be able to work with 5G. Yes, it's extremely quick with the 5G.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any more questions?
I got my hand up, Chair.
Oh, sorry, Tony, I can't see.
All right.
Carry on, Councillor Eason.
It's a question regarding the procurement, and in the procurement it says the customer will pay. It's got an asterisk there, and I can't see where it's going to. But it's going below. Yes, the customer pays via SMS and also per rate per transaction. Is would that be included in the car parking charge, or would it be a separate fee to the customer?
It will be a separate fee. So if the parking fee is £1 an hour, it would be £1.05, and the app would state to the customer that this is an additional transaction fee.
So that will be stated on the transaction. Okay.
It would be, yes.
Yeah, right on. Thank you.
And we've got Councillor Petruni next.
Oh, he's there, is he?
Thank you. This is a no-brainer, and actually we need to do it ASAP. Many councils are already ahead of the game, so I think we need to get moving very quickly on this. I just want clarification on two things and then a question. How does it link with our enforcement strategy? Do you have a meeting? I think you called it WS6, where you speak to our enforcement officers and how that links to the system, or are you a completely new system? We scrap our system. Just some clarity on that. Are you able to charge for other things? For example, if we implement recommendation 4, I believe, on EV charges, could you add that to the charge schedule? And X cost is going to cost you an extra thing if you want to charge a vehicle for an hour or whatever. Just wondering if there's additional function to it. And did you just say it's an additional charge to the customer, or does it affect our bottom line as a council? So rather than us getting 100% of the income for the charge, it just splits 50-50, or is it an additional cost? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so should I work through all the 3 questions?
Yes, please.
Cool. Okay, so starting from the first one with regards to the enforcement, we provide the enforcement provider an API string, which they would import into the handhelds. So currently we work with your existing provider, Imperial, across 19 different local authorities. All we provide for them is an API, which they will tap into our system. And when the CEOs goes on their handhelds and enters location number 123, they'll be able to see the active sessions at that location. So if they've got 100 cars and ABC 123 is shown in green, it means that customer's got an active session. However, if ABC 567 is shown in red, it would tell that CEO that customer had an active session. However, his session is expired, and if that vehicle remains at that location, then he should, get a ticket. It is very simple, so there's no need for any scrapping. We work alongside your existing provider. With regards to the transaction fee, it's an added-on fee. So as mentioned earlier, if the transaction fee for 1 hour, the service charge for 1 hour is £1 an hour, our fee would be 5 pence if the customer pays. So it'll be £1.05. So you guys will keep your £1 and we'll keep our 5 pence. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So we're in fact increasing charges, though, just to be clear, for the system to the client.
Yeah, that's right, Councillor Petrini. If the customer chooses to pay by phone, then they pay the extra 5 pence.
However, with regards to the transaction fee, as mentioned, we offer the option for a revenue share. So to give you the example of the Isle of Anglesey and Gwynedd Council, they both opted to go through this ESPO route. So they've chosen to swallow the transaction fee, which in their case is 4 pence, and they offset that fee with the SMS revenue. So that way the council isn't increasing the cost for the customer. So it's like for like with the P&D. However, the cost on the council isn't that steep because you're offsetting that fee with the amount that you'll be making from the SMS revenue.
All right, so we can offset it with the text.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And
so the second option is that if the parking charge were £1, we'd get 96 pence. The company would get 4 pence. And if the customer chooses the SMS option, then we get 5p back. But we might not. We might just get the 96 pence. So that's the other option.
yes. And if you could remind me of your final question, please.
With regards to charging
EV.
electric vehicles, yeah.
Yes.
EV.
So we're currently in talks with a couple of companies that do EV charging, so we can have an integration into our solution, so that from next year onwards, I think it's in line for end of Q2, beginning of Q3, so that customers can pay for their EV charging through our app. All we do is we allocate another location number. So if location number 123 is for this car park, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which will be for the EV charging, and they'll be able to pay it through that way. With regards to the nitty gritty of it, right now I'm not 100% sure, but I could come back to you with a bit more information on that after this call.
I would certainly appreciate that.
No problem.
So could I come back in briefly, Chair?
Of course.
Just on two matters. If I cover EV first, yeah, we'd welcome any input from Jose or whatever provider we might choose if we did go down that route. Although how it works at the moment is the EV chargers themselves are being provided by a company, and the customer on an electric vehicle parking bay at the moment, the customer doesn't pay to park; they just pay to charge, and that fuel goes to the company to help pay for the equipment that they've installed at no cost to us, or via a grant, if that makes sense. So something to explore in the future, but there's a slight complexity around the EV charging system, which I think we'll pick up in a future meeting when we look at that in detail.
Okay.
In terms of enforcement, briefly, Jose's kindly agreed to meet the enforcement colleagues on Thursday this week to run through with them and hear any concerns direct from them in terms of their day-to-day work. In essence, we'll be running, if we went with this, we'll be running the current system alongside this, so all options are available, and the enforcement officers would have to go around the car parks as they do now, look in the windows to see if there's a parking ticket or a blue badge, and then if there isn't, check in on this system to see if they've paid via PayByPhone. So it is a little bit of extra work, but we'll see what the team makes of it. I don't think it'll be insurmountable. Obviously, with time, this might really pick up and we'll have more and more customers using this system. Jose did explain to us there's a way in which the system can tell the enforcement officer all of the cars that are registered via it for that car park. So you turn up at Welsh Street in Chepstow, for example, and it will give the officer a list of the registration numbers for the people with a current payment in place for that car park at that moment, and so they could tick them off the list as they're going round. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other members with any comments or questions for Jose or Mark on this? Obviously, I know that. Oh, sorry, Councillor Pavia, you wish to come in. You did say.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Councillor Paul Pavia, elected member for Larkfield and Chepstow. Jose, thanks very much for your presentation. Just in terms of the functionality of your system, one of the challenges we're looking at, particularly in the review process, the whole car park review process, is trying to understand or model data about who is using our car parks and what the rationale is for them to use our car parks. Can you, is it possible to add a very short survey to your model, in terms of why people are using it? So, 4 or 5 options. It's retail, it's a member of staff working within the town, it's a disabled person, can that be built in at all? Is that something that you can do?
And unfortunately, at the moment, no, because it's a pretty standard process. However, what some councils are doing is we can add a URL, so a link to the receipt. So every customer that does a session will get an email receipt as a confirmation for the session. So you can add a URL there saying, would you like to complete a survey? Because we can't force in a survey to every single customer, but we can enter them into having the option to enter into the survey. So we can offer that. So you can say, would you like to enter this survey? Here's a URL if you'd like to complete it, but we can't force every single person that does a session to complete the survey now.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Pavia. Are there any other members who would like to ask a question? Excuse me a moment. I've got a question. Obviously, you said about the Welsh language, which is very important. Does your app allow you to select other languages? Obviously, we see a great deal of visitors to the local authority, some from other countries. So I was wondering if we could have it in other languages as well.
Yes, so the great thing about the solution is that it mimics the language on the phone. So to give you an example, my parents are both Spanish, so their phones are in Spanish. So if they open the PayByPhone app, the PayByPhone app will be in Spanish. So if you have visitors coming in from Germany, France, or wherever, and their phone is set to that specific language, then the app will be go into that specific language. Additionally, you can go into the settings and just change the language if you'd like to do that. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Louise Brown next.
Yes, Councillor Louise Brown, thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask a question really about the range of tickets. I mean, in our car parks, we have people coming in shopping for an hour or two, and then we have sort of 4 or 5 day tickets, and then we have season tickets. So I'm not quite sure what your coverage includes. And also the question is that sometimes people, when they're confused about whether they should be paying or not, they look at other cars to see if they've got tickets or not. And obviously there would be no ticket here. I was thinking specifically where they had a Sunday, I think, for the first hour or two free, and then you know, it wasn't, and people were a bit confused as to whether or not they should get a ticket or not, you know, because of that. And then if they entered a ticket, then they ended up paying when, say, for example, there was an hour or two free on a Sunday anyway. The other question is would it cause confusion to disabled car parking? Because at the moment, obviously, we've got the blue badge system whereby that's free, and if they see a sign that says pay by phone, you know, will they think that they've got to pay by phone? And I think, you know, it's making sure that the messages both on our own signage and yours are quite clear. The other question I've got is, you mentioned it was a 24 month free trial contract, but obviously you've got signs that you would stick up to say, you know, posts with labels on the top of English and Welsh. But when, for example, if the council decided that they didn't want to continue with the trial, would you remove and make good? You know, obviously you dig up to put these metal posts in, and would you actually make good everything afterwards at no charge?
Okay, cool. So I'll work for your 3 points. With regards to the free parking, we can configure the tariffs to offer a free parking rate. So if, as you said, on Sundays you've got an hour free parking, or in most councils right now they're offering 30-minute free parking across certain high street locations, you can get that free 30 minutes on your PayByPhone app. So there won't be any reason for anyone that has a free parking to miss out on that if they do go through the PayByPhone channel. So that option is available. With regards to disabled parkers, it is about the information you guys currently have on your tariff boards. So with the Isle of Anglesey, this issue was raised. So it was about making it clear for customers to know that if they have a disabled badge, then they won't have to pay for their parking free PayByPhone. All they have to do is display their disabled badge. So we work with them to update that information so it was made very clear. And this is sort of going back to the signage, where we want to advertise that PayByPhone is available, but also going back to what the tariff board is saying to make sure that the members of the public that have a disabled badge are not paying for a session if they have the badge on show. And finally, with regards to the signage and the removal of it, all we provide are stickers that go on the side of the P&D, or will go on a tariff board or any available space that you guys make available to us. So yes, in most cases we take over from an existing provider. So as is the case with Denbighshire, where they had and the Vale of Glamorgan, where they had phone and pay. So they already had stickers on the side of the machines, and we provided with a team provided a service of removing those old stickers and putting our stickers. So if you guys decided after 24 months that you would not like our service, then we'll send a team over to remove those stickers and leave the machines as they were when we found them. Does that cover your points?
Yeah, I think so. I think I suppose it's just making very clear, because obviously shoppers can be very confused about this. You know, so for example, you know, if a disabled person saw a pay by phone, they might think they had to use it, and I think it's obviously got to be clear that for disabled, it's free, no cash payment and no pay by phone either. I don't think I think the Sunday parking, I can't remember whether it was 2 or 3 hours free that we had, to cover parking. But I think often you've got to be careful with this signage just to make sure there isn't any confusion. And I missed the point. Did you say you covered all types of tickets, including season ones and so forth?
That's correct. Yes. So we can do standard day-to-day tickets or season tickets and also permits.
And what's the transaction charge? Does that vary according to the type of ticket? For example, because I can see you gave the example of an hour paying a transaction fee of 4 or 5p, but would the transaction fee be greater for sort of like a 4 or 5 day ticket or a season ticket, or would it be exactly the same?
It would be exactly this. It's a flat 5p rate for standard tickets and season tickets. There is a different fee for permits, but season tickets and cashless transactions, as we call it, are the standard 5p if the customer is paying, or 4p if the council is paying a transaction fee.
Okay, thank you.
That's lovely. Are there any more questions? No? Thank you ever so much for attending today, Jose, and your time speaking to our members. So obviously a few things come up. Compatibility with 5G. How does it link in with our enforcement? Which obviously you advise that you provide enforcement with it. Was it an API?
Yes.
Yes. And are you going to assist? Are you able to assist with EV charges, which I think you're looking into? Councillor Pavia also questioned the functionality, because we want to obtain some more data on how people are using, but at this moment in time the app couldn't do that. But you could, in the receipts, the tax receipts or the emails, it can be put into a URL. Louise had concerns with regards to disabled parking and making sure it's clear that disabled parkers do not need to pay either by cash or by app. And she also questioned the free of charge parking, and will your system configure with that? And you agreed yes. And that she was obviously concerned with regards to signage and removal, and you said it's stickers that you use to put on and then take off if they don't choose to go ahead with the service. So thank you ever so much. I don't think there's any more questions on that, so I'll hand back over to Mark.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you, Jose.
Thanks, Jose. Thanks very much. Thanks, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Cheerio. Okay, in terms of the remainder of the meeting, and I'm really conscious of time, but I think that the only thing left for us really to discuss today is just the schedule of future meetings and how the committee wishes to handle that. I can re-show the slides if you want as a reminder of the proposed timetable.
Can you? Because I think we've got some additional members that have jumped on slightly later.
Is that working?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, bear with me. Is that working?
No. Oh, it is now. It is now. It is now. Technology likes to get the heart beating a bit faster.
Okay, so the next meeting then will be meeting 2. So the suggestion is we use that to examine existing data. We'd add on there the financial impacts and the rates payable that Councillor Smith mentioned earlier this morning. So looking at ticket sales, camera data, current distribution of short and long stay parking, and the number and location of disabled person parking bays, just to really get all the evidence we need of the state of the nation as it currently is, so we can move on. The next session, session 3, suggested that we hear evidence from town and community councils and business reps in terms of their views on how car parking could be arranged any challenges they currently experience. We can engage with them again later in the process when there's actual proposals to put to them. Session 4 would be then looking at changes. So changes to proportion of short and long stay, number of disabled bays, parent and child bays, and look at the tourism aspects as well that we mentioned for coach parking and camper van parking. Session 5, look at simplifying the fee structure, permits and EV charging and pricing. Session 6, looking at the scope of the charging structure. So in essence, should all the free car parks remain free, or should there be either time limits or charging or neither for those free car parks, and also looking at advanced digital signage. Then suggest we'll have some recommendations to put out for public consultation, and then we'll come back to the Joint Select Committee with a review of the consultation responses, enabling us to firm up final recommendations to go to Cabinet Member for decision.
Members, are we happy to agree with Mark with his proposed schedule?
Chair,
sorry, I can't see the hands being raised. Thank you. Come on in, Councillor Petruni.
I think Councillor Pav is behind me. Just
sorry.
to let you aware. I'm one of the members who jumped on late. Sorry, Monday mornings for full-time workers isn't the greatest time. So could I just say for the workers, and I know you're one of them, Chair, could we avoid Monday mornings if possible for future meetings? That would be greatly appreciated. Actually, thanks for running through that, Mark. Just my query on the evidence base. Sorry, because this is my line of work at the moment. Given the system that Jose has just outlined and an equivalent company that we might pick up, if it's not this company, isn't it worth understanding the effect, if any, on the implementation of the system and whether users went up or down? So a number of, was there some drop off, or do we find more people attending car parks pre-COVID now to have a benchmark assessment and just see if it's the efficacy of the process? I think that'd be quite useful from my perspective to understand the effect the system's had elsewhere in different locations. And ditto around, I don't know if you've mentioned if you want to do the labels part of the system or an equivalent with a different company to advertise and affect our tourist sites, but the effect that has had, whether positive or negative, I don't know if that company would supply that information, but that would also be really useful to understand the possible consequences for us as a council. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. In terms of the data I was talking about, that was simply about our car park usage. So we know, I won't go over it in too much detail because I covered it earlier, but we know how many people buy tickets and which tickets they buy, but we don't know how long people have bought a 2-hour ticket stay, if it's 30 minutes, if it's 1 hour 59, or something in the middle. And we need to understand that so we know what impact any future changes might have. And we've got actually no data at all on free car parks because there are no ticket machines. So we've had a 3-day camera survey at the middle of March, just before lockdown, and we're proposing another survey, albeit we'll have to recognise that data is during COVID, so isn't a long-term accurate picture, but is the best we can do at the moment, unless we just delay everything until we're happy that COVID's fully over. But I suggest that's quite some time off, and we're not quite sure when that will be, so we're better off cracking on now.
Sorry, Mark, I didn't mean our own data. I meant when another council's implemented that pay mobile phone system. I should have been clear. My fault.
We can ask Jose and the councils if they have that data. Obviously, they wouldn't have data themselves of what happened before they were on site, but the councils may. I'm conscious that North West Wales went live in July, August, so whatever was happening before was already impacted on COVID, and what's happened since is impacted by COVID. So I'm not sure we'll get a decent picture of the data, because their take up of car parking full stop in September would have been affected by external things, nothing to do with PayByPhone. I imagine their car park usage has gone down because of COVID rather than changed because of the phone system.
Well, just to help you,
Bristol
have had the system for years, so it might be worth asking them.
Okay. Yeah, we can ask for the data and see what it tells us. We weren't particularly viewing this as a way of increasing or changing car park usage, just offering an additional payment method that will make it easier for people and potentially a quick win, as Councillor Petrini said, seems like a no-brainer to me as well, and one that we could progress now rather than wait for the completion of the review. As I mentioned earlier, the only reason it would be completely abortive work is if we made every single car park free and there is nothing to pay. But I doubt whether that would be the conclusion, because it'll be a very difficult one to afford. So yeah, we'll ask for the data, see if it has any impact, but really the concept was around making it easier for customers using the car parks rather than necessarily changing usage. It'd be interesting to learn if it has changed anything though.
Do you want to come back in, Councillor Petrini?
Yeah, I would think just on the marketing tool. Were you planning to use that aspect of the system? Because it would seem to make sense to me, but I know other companies might have different options. But would that be something we'd be looking into?
Yeah, I'd certainly be interested, Chair. So in terms of the kind of the skin almost that they give the app, to have some on-machine bespoke pictures. We can work with our comms team. So there'll be some obvious things at different times of the year, such as the Abergavenny Food Festival. You could focus on Abergavenny for that month, different things in different places throughout the year, and then just different images. I think it'd be really positive to make it more locally bespoke. One of the images you showed a kind of a bit of a city skyline, or very, very dense urban. And just looking at that in contrast to the pictures of Tintern Abbey and the like, it just didn't sit right at all. So I think it'd be important to have it bespoke and local. We could use it with comms to promote different events in that way. And the link that Jose started talking about with local shops, if customers extend their stay time using the QR code in the shop. I mean, all of that sounds great, and be interesting to see what the business reps think of that. But I imagine it'd be of interest to them. So I think all of that's of interest.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor Pavia.
Thanks, Chair. Just looking at the recommendations again, Mark, and obviously the schedule of meetings. I'm just conscious we're not looking at enforcement at all. Is that something that we need to revisit? Obviously, Neil's updated us in terms of the compendium. You're going to be up to what, in terms of your full capacity 6 and fully trained by sort of back end of this month, early December. Is there any view that if we increase that capacity, we potentially may generate more in terms of penalty income, and essentially it'll pay for itself? But particularly in terms of disabled access, and something I raised earlier on in the first session, was that enforcement does come hand in hand with some of this. So I don't know whether it's completely off the table in terms of what you're looking at, the wider review, but I'd be interested to hear your comments. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Pavia. Personally, I don't think we need to review the enforcement service as such. The scope of their abilities and their remit is set out in legislation, and it's just up to us really to get out there and do it. Probably what it'd be good to do is towards the end of this review, so towards March time, we could give an update on how the team's doing in terms of income, tickets issued, that kind of thing, and just car park revenue generally, because it all paints a bit of a picture around the high streets activity, COVID, and all of that. So perhaps just bring it back as an information piece rather than a topic for review, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Okay.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Pavia?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So Do you have any idea on dates when that will start, Mark? The workshop, sorry.
I think it'd be. I mean, I'm conscious of the time commitment for yourselves. I mean, we're looking at 2 committees here, not even just one. So it's a lot of members, but equally it has county-wide implications, and we'll have a lot of member interest, and rightly so. I'd like us to crack on and make and keep some momentum. So I mean, I think realistically probably be looking at monthly meetings, but that schedule would take us up to where to May time. We had a good old chat this morning before the session started about the timetable to see if we could compress it, and we did get it down from about 7 meetings to 6 by grouping things. But I think some of the items really are going to generate some discussion and debates, and we need to allow time for that to happen. So, I mean, ideally, if we could meet again once before Christmas would be helpful, if that's realistic, and then monthly then into the new year. But I'm not sure, Chair, if it works best as a joint committee session or as working groups or some kind of other arrangement, and how, well, really want to maximise involvement, but really conscious of the time impact for members working and not working.
Paul, do you have any comments with regards to that? I think the joint selects seem to work okay, but have you got any concerns with us doing the workshops together?
No, I think widening it out to as many members as possible is really useful. I mean, in terms of the LDP process and the workshops there, I think they've been really well attended. Timing is always important, as Councillor Petruni said. Perhaps later on in the day, we found that the LDP workshops back end of the afternoon has been useful. We're never going to accommodate everyone because of various other additional commitments for town and community councils and other boards and governing bodies that people sit on. But given the extent of this review and the implications, I think as many members being involved in the various discussions is really important.
Mark, are you okay with going ahead with the schedule then and sending us some dates for the first one?
Yeah, if that works for members. So we're looking at kind of late afternoon, early evening, so 5 o'clock-ish workshops. Is that the plan? And then we'd need to arrange how we report back formally, I guess, into this committee. I can discuss that offline with you if that's easier.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, members, are there any more questions or comments you want to raise now? No, I can't see hands raised. So thank you ever so much for everyone attending. Hazel, have we got the date? Oh, sorry, it's a joint meeting, so there's no next date because it's not just Strong Communities or E&D. So thank you ever so much, everyone, for attending today, and thank you for the visitors who attended and presented as well. I'm going to close this meeting now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you, Chair.